Welcome to Spare Talk. This is Rod Weaver. Today is October the 16th, 2024, and today we're going to do another This Day in Bowling History, so we'll get right to it again. First news item is from the Washington Post from 1914, and it's duck pin related. Headline is Riston rolls 404 duck pin set, setting the record for district. Jay Riston, rolling on the Norris Peters team of the Capital City League, last night made a district record for a set of duck pins of 404. His first game was only 111, but he followed this up with a 144 and a 149, respectively, in his next two games, or next two strings. The previous mark was 403, registered by Eddie Keith last year. Riston's totals were earned principally through spares. He got 4 clean spills with 2 balls in his first game. In the next game he made 5 spares and a strike, and in the third game he followed a strike in the second box with 5 straight spares. He lapsed for 2 boxes and then came through with a spare to wind up the set. Dave McCarthy holds the one-game record, 182, made about 4 years ago when he was a member of the well-known Mount Vernon's team. A short snippet here from Canada. This is from the Buffalo Courier, but it's from the year 1907. C.C. Brooks, a member of the Toronto Bowling Club, rolled 299 on a game of 10 pins. This is 1 pin less than possible, which is 300, and unfortunately with his 12th ball he left 1 pin standing. This is the record of 10 pins in Canada and is very rarely accomplished across the line. Here's a unusual news item from the Evening World Herald from the year 1912. Perkins and Ratigan make a strange bet. A wager on today's ball game, loser to roll 10-pin ball through local streets. And the article reads as follows. W.I. Perkins, proprietor of the Association Bowling Alleys, 14th and Harney Streets, and C.F. Ratigan, manager of the Omaha Cold Storage Company, have a strange bet on this afternoon's World Series ball game. Perkins picked the Red Sox and Ratigan took the Giant end of it. Both men are crack bowlers. The loser is to roll a regulation 10-pin ball from the Association Alleys, east to 13th Street, north to Farnham, west to 16th, south to Harney, and east to the Alleys. The payment of the debt will be made sometime tomorrow, the exact hour to be announced later. In the Frederick Leader from 1942 in Oklahoma, the headline goes, Bowling Popular Recreation, and the article reads as follows. The Victory Bowling Center, located on South 8th Street, features modern equipment and a desirable atmosphere in which bowling fans, both men and women, can relax, play, and exercise in one of the most popular indoor games now played in the nation. Bowling, as a form of recreation for both men and women, has shown a more rapid growth in the past 10 years than any other game. Today there is nothing more domestic than the act of crashing 10 pins. In 1932, for example, there were only about 25,000 bowlers around the country, hooking balls down 300 alleys. Today, which was 10 years later, there are over 15 million bowlers and more than 6,000 alleys or lanes. Now from Frederick, Maryland, from the year 1963, on October 16th, Larry Shank rolls perfect game at Terrace Lanes. The second perfect game in Frederick 10-pin history has been scored at Terrace Lanes. Young Larry Shank turned the trick Saturday bowling in an unsanctioned open play pot game. Shank, 19 years of age, pumped in 12 consecutive strikes, missing the pocket only twice. His final toss was a Brooklyn sweeper that brought cheers from a number of surprised onlookers. Although the 300 game was not scored in ABC-sanctioned competition, Terrace Lanes will award the youth a handsome trophy as a memento and several other gifts. The first sanctioned 300 game in Maryland was scored at Terrace Lanes in 1960 when John Eterno tossed 12 consecutive strikes in the Classic League. Here's an interesting story from the year 1865, which was published on October the 16th in the Daily Evening Express out of Lancaster, PA. This is a story that has a moral to it, so it's not anything that's statistically noteworthy, but it is as follows. The paragraph is entitled, Whiskey and 10-pins. On Saturday afternoon, a party of young men went into a 10-pin alley and amused themselves with several games of bowls, not forgetting to drain sundry whiskey howls. They rolled the balls along the alley and the whiskey down the red lane, knocking down the pins and getting unsteady upon their own pins until they were drunk enough to make a 10-strike for home. On going to get their coats, one of the young men missed his watch and at once accused his friend of stealing it. So well satisfied was he of the guilt of the young man that, notwithstanding his earnest protestations of innocence and his hitherto upright conduct, he had him arrested and locked up on a charge of larceny. In the course of a couple hours, the fumes of the whiskey had partly passed away, and the bowler remembered that he had left his watch with another friend, and it was not stolen at all. Filled with remorse at his cruel conduct toward his imprisoned friend, he hastened to the lockup, had him released, and went down on his knees 3 times to beg his pardon. The young man who had been wrongfully accused was deeply mortified and could hardly forgive his friend. But, knowing that half the blame was due to the whiskey, he relented. We trust that these young men have learned a useful lesson, and that hereafter they will let whiskey alone. In the Birmingham News from Alabama in the year 1919 is the following snippet. Duck pins becoming popular. Birmingham has quite a number of 10-pin bowlers, but comparatively few who attempt the smaller duck pins. But the number is growing, said Roy Sensabaugh. Bowling has never really reached the popularity it should have in Birmingham, but this season has started off as though there was going to be a steadily growing interest taken in the healthful sport. There are a number of persons taking up duck pins who find it easier to handle the small balls used in this game than the larger ones used in 10 pins. There is a great deal of skill required in the duck pin game, and the scores never approximate the ones with the larger pins, but more practice will develop better bowlers. Duck pin leagues are common in northern cities, and their contests prove of great interest. From California, in the news outlet the Press Telegram from the year 1973. This is a 10-pin related story. Title, Soaking Your Bowling Balls. PBA says no, no. Methyl ethyl ketone, a highly flammable chemical solvent used to soften the outer coating of plastic bowling balls for greater scoring potential, has no place on the Professional Bowlers Association Tour. That was the verdict handed down by PBA Executive Director Joe Antonora upon recommendation by the PBA's Executive Board in Akron, Ohio last Thursday. The banishment of MEK on the professional level precedes yet another anticipated rules change by the American Bowling Congress outlawing the use of MEK in the amateur ranks. Presently, the ABC is conducting a mail poll of its 92-member board of directors, and an announcement will be forthcoming. MEK has been a very volatile issue over the last 6 months. It seems numerous PBA Tour regulars, including leading money winners Don McCune, Barry Asher, Earl Anthony, Jim Godman, and Dick Ritker, have adopted the practice of soaking their 16-pound bowling balls in buckets of MEK in order to soften the outer plastic shell or layers. By doing so, the softening effect provides a better bite or grip on the lanes, thus enabling the pros to use their standard hooking shot on oily conditions. Even high-scoring amateurs discovered that treating their plastic balls with MEK and a wide assortment of other solutions cut down on deflection when the ball hit the pins, giving them the devastating pin action they sought. The innovation does not work on conventional hard rubber. The negative aspects of MEK are many. With physical properties much like that of gasoline, the chemical is highly flammable and can explode upon contact with any ignitable spark. Additionally, dermatologists have discovered the solvent has severe toxic side effects. MEK defats the skin, causing dermatitis or inflammation, while factory workers handling or inhaling its vapors have complained of irritation of the nose and mouth, inducing vomiting. Prior to Thursday's ruling, the PBA and other bowling governing bodies like the ABC, WIBC, and AJBC had no statute governing surface hardness, opening the door to the widespread use of ball soaking across the nation. We adopted the new rule for 2 reasons: safety and equality in competition, states Antonora. Naturally, uppermost in our minds was the inherent danger of these chemicals. We wanted to ensure the health and well-being of all competitors who come under our jurisdiction. Here's a short piece from the Central New Jersey Home News from 1982. The paragraph title is just Roth in Stride. Mark Roth of Spring Lake Heights, after going for almost a year without a victory on the Professional Bowlers Association Tour, got back into the winner's circle Tuesday. He won the PBA Regional Champions Classic in Limerick, PA, with a 216-205 victory over Tom Milton of St. Petersburg, Florida. Another New Jerseyan, Charles Del Plato of Lakewood, finished 5th. From the Brookville American from the year 1930, from the state of Pennsylvania, Dan Balmer wins duckpin title at Vets Hospital. An interesting event took place at the Perry Point Hospital for disabled war veterans on Wednesday evening of last week, when awards were given to the outstanding athletes of the hospital, among whom was Dan T. Balmer, former editor of the Brookville American, who is a patient at the hospital. 11 loving cups and 15 medals were awarded, Mr. Balmer getting a fine loving cup. Dan is an expert at the bowling game, according to the program from the Veterans Building, specializing in the duckpin game, and was awarded his cup for attaining the highest average of any of the competitors during the season. Awards were made to the athlete with the highest 10-pin average, tennis champion, swimming champion, all-around baseball player, handball champion, horseshoe champion, pool champion, calisthenic champion, for the greatest physical improvement during the year and for the most faithful service. So that's a nice touch to finish off with, that the hospitals had bowling competitions in which they gave awards to the patients who needed the exercise and the thrill of competition. So I think that's about all for today. Hopefully I'll see you in the next day or so.